There is a lot of noise right now around AI. Some people are excited, some people are anxious, and some people are saying they don't care while quietly wondering if their industry, their role, or their future is about to change in a major way. And the big question that I hear being asked is, will AI replace our jobs? And while I think that this is a very important question, it doesn't exactly leave one feeling particularly expansive. In my 18 years of coaching, one principle has proven true again and again. When you're stuck, the problem isn't usually a lack of answers. It's that you're asking the wrong question. So in this episode, instead of asking, will AI replace me? I want to ask, which parts of me can't be replaced? And to help you explore that, I'm going to share 3 human-only traits that I think everyone needs to lean into right now if you are done with reactive mode and you are ready to step into a more intentional, grounded, and aligned way of being. Because here's the possibility that I want to put on the table. What if this moment in history is not here to make us smaller and more fearful, but to invite us to become more fully ourselves and to let those parts of us expand and take up more space? Let's dive in. Whenever there's a big shift towards uncertainty, our instinctive response is to switch into survival mode. And in survival mode, we start asking safety check questions. What's going to happen to my career? How will this affect my business and my income? How will this impact my family? These are all valid questions, but if we're willing to go a little deeper, there's often a more vulnerable conversation that's happening beneath the surface. And this conversation is typically a lot harder to articulate out loud. Because for many of us, especially high achievers, what we do and who we are have quietly become the same thing. So when the thing we do feels threatened, it's not just our livelihood that feels at stake, it's our identity. Who am I if I'm no longer the expert in the room? Who am I if the skills I've spent years mastering can now be replicated in seconds? Who am I if I'm not the provider, the problem solver, or the one with all the answers? That's the real conversation, and it's a much more important one to have. Because here's what I've seen in 18 years of working with high performers across different industries. The people who navigate change most powerfully are not the ones who define themselves by what they do. They're the ones who know who they are beneath the title, the function, the accolades, and the job description. And that kind of clarity starts only when you stop outsourcing your sense of self to external validations that make you feel worthy, and instead you lean into the truth that you are unconditionally worthy, and that the value you bring to the world isn't about what you can produce or what you've achieved. It's about the depth of your presence, the authenticity of your contribution, and the lives you touch by being willing to show up as exactly who you are. So let's get practical. What does leaning into the truth of who you are actually look like? Because this isn't just a mindset shift, it's a practice. And it starts with 3 traits that I believe are not only deeply human, but are more valuable now than they have ever been. The first trait is curiosity. Growing up, most of us were encouraged to be inquisitive, to ask questions, to explore, to dig deeper. But the curiosity we were rewarded for always had a destination, right? You were curious within a subject, towards an answer, in pursuit of a grade or some kind of assessment. The curiosity I'm talking about here is different. I'm talking about the kind of curiosity where you follow a pull simply because it's there, not because you can explain where it's going or justify it to anyone else or guarantee that it's going to lead somewhere impressive. It's where you give yourself full permission to be interested in something without needing it to become a career, a credential, or produce some kind of outward achievement. This kind of curiosity isn't something that we were really given the chance to practice growing up. I mean, think about it. At 17 or 18 years old, most of us were expected to decide on a degree, decide on a career path, have a vision for our future before we've even had nearly enough life experience to know what truly fits us. On top of that, the guidance we receive is almost always shaped by what looks safe, stable, or sensible to the people around us. And for a while, it worked. But over time, a quiet restlessness can set in, a sense that you're going through the motions, that you're performing a life rather than actually living one. This isn't a character flaw. It's simply what can happen when you make a major decision about your future before you've had enough real data on yourself. And I promise you, you are not alone if you find yourself questioning your life choices, even if on the surface, those choices have yielded impressive results. In fact, I'd say it's often the most successful people who feel this most acutely, because the higher you climb in a direction that was never truly yours, the louder that inner voice tends to get. And that voice isn't something to wrestle with. It's an invitation, because following your curiosity is how you gather data points that reveal who you are and what matters most to you. Start by noticing what sparks your interest, what pulls at you. What do you find yourself reading or thinking about and returning to? That thing that makes time disappear. Here's why this matters now more than ever. In a world where AI can replicate almost any skill, the person who practices this kind of curiosity is reinforcing a sense of self that has nothing to do with their learned skills or the roles they've been performing. And this kind of curiosity doesn't just make you feel more alive, it makes you show up and contribute differently. You bring a different kind of energy into the room compared to the person who is plagued with self-doubt and quietly questioning their value. You become the person who comes up with a solution that no one else thought of, or comes up with an exciting new business idea that lights you up from the inside out. In the process of following your curiosity, you start to trust yourself more too. And gradually, you become the kind of person that people are drawn to, not because of your title or your track record, but because you know who you are. And there's nothing more grounding to be around than somebody who is genuinely at home in themselves. The second trait we need to lean into is deep listening. And again, I want to offer a slightly different way of thinking about this than you might expect. When most people hear deep listening, they think it's about being a better listener in conversation, putting your phone down, making eye contact, not interrupting, and yes, all of that matters. But that's not quite what I'm referring to here. What I'm talking about is listening in two directions simultaneously. Listening outward to the people around you, to what's being said and what isn't being said. Being really attuned to the emotional undercurrent of a room or a relationship. And listening inwards to yourself, to your own internal signals, to your own truth and your own inner knowing. Because here's what I've noticed. In a world that is moving faster than ever, most of us have become extraordinarily good at producing and extraordinarily bad at pausing. We consume information constantly. We react, we generate, we perform, we do, we take action, and we rarely stop long enough to sit in silence and truly listen to what's actually happening. Think about how many times you've said yes when something in you was saying no, or how many times you've walked out of a conversation feeling unsettled because you held back from what it was you really wanted to say. How many times have you pushed through exhaustion, disconnection, or doubt in favor of grinding ahead because you didn't think you could afford to slow down? Deep listening is what allows us to hear the truth within ourselves and in others before we rush to take action. Here's another way to look at it. If curiosity is what enables you to discover what matters most to you, deep listening is the trait that enables you to interpret what those discoveries are really telling you about who you are, what you need, and what your next most aligned step might be. And now that we have AI, we actually have the ultimate productivity tool. We can use AI to take tasks off our plate, streamline workflow, and genuinely give us our time back so that we can use that recovered time for greater pause, reflection, and connection. And here's why this matters practically. The people who will move through this period of change most powerfully are the ones who are listening closely enough to notice what's actually being needed by their clients, their teams, their industry, and within themselves. Deep listening is what allows you to read a room and respond more consciously instead of just react, to sense what a client actually needs beneath what they're asking for, to notice the gap in the market before it becomes obvious to everyone else. It's also what allows you to listen to yourself clearly enough to know when to pivot, when to stay, and when something is asking you to grow in a new direction. In a rapidly changing landscape, deep listening is a soft skill that's also a strategic advantage. The third trait is courage, specifically the courage to show up imperfectly. If you think about it, AI is an extraordinary gift for perfectionists. Seriously, you can take anything, an email, a presentation, a business proposal, and polish it until every rough edge is gone. You can refine, optimize, and finesse to your heart's delight. The barrier to producing something that looks and sounds flawless has never been lower. But here's what I want you to consider. The more the world fills up with polished, refined, AI-optimized content and communication, the more starved people will become for something that feels real. Because let's be honest here, perfection at scale is kind of boring and it feels hollow. It starts to feel like everyone is speaking in the same highly polished, well-structured, and optimized voice. But the people who are willing to show up as they are, those are the ones who are going to stand out, because people don't connect with perfect. They connect with authenticity. And allowing yourself to show up imperfectly takes courage. It takes courage to speak before you feel completely ready to do so. It takes courage to lead a conversation without a script, to share a perspective that isn't fully formed yet, to share an idea that you're excited about but that scares you at the same time. But this kind of realness is what people will connect most with and trust. And trust is one of the most important currencies in the age of artificial intelligence. So let's bring this all together. We started today with a question that I think matters far more than, will AI replace me? The question was, which parts of me can't be replaced? Your curiosity, the kind that follows your sparks of interest because something in you knows that they're pointing towards something real and uniquely resonant for you. Your deep listening, the ability to slow down in a world that is optimizing towards speed, to hear and interpret what's actually being said, what's actually being asked for, and what your own inner voice has been trying to tell you. And finally, your courage to show up imperfectly, to be present and real in the moments that matter, without waiting until you feel completely ready or completely polished. The world is not just changing how we work, it's changing what we value. And I genuinely believe that what is becoming more valuable is not more efficiency or more output. It's more humanness. Your curiosity, your deep listening, and your courage to show up honestly and let yourself be seen are your greatest assets in the age of AI. If you are ready to explore further, I have a tool that's taken directly from my upcoming book. I call it the Misalignment Audit. It's a set of journaling prompts that are designed to get you curious about different areas in your life that may be calling for attention so that you can practice that deep listening as well as the courage to explore new possibilities. Click the link in the description to download that for free now. And if this episode resonated with you today, please share it with somebody in your life who is navigating change and needs a reminder of just how valued they are. I'll see you in the next episode.